People who work at 5-star hotels, what type of crap goes on that management doesn't want people to know? I spent 10 years in the boutique and 5-star hotel world. Got stories for days. But here is my favorite that sums up hospitality for me anyways. Our concierge was like Left's door. Had all the connections. This dude could get you into the French Laundry same day. He would often greet guests with sangria and sprigs of mint from his garden. Sometimes he had lemon slices from his tree too. He loved to tell guests all about his garden and they ate it up. Yeah, that's all bulls. Mint, lemon, and any other garnish we got from the local grocery store. The sangria? Cheapest boxed stuff we could find. But he sold the story like no other. At the end of the day, it worked. I'm convinced most people don't know the difference between good and crappy liquor. I did wine sampling at stores and people would enjoy a wine until you told them it was $6. Or the opposite, it was gross until they found out it was $30. Here's one taken from the opposite end. I'm really bad at rolling joints. I left the crappy joint with my stash and papers on the dresser. I come back to a nicely rolled joint. I don't know if any was missing. But thank you Hard Rock LV staff. Ha, a joint effort. I have worked at 2 hotels that are rated by Forbes, formerly mobile, and randomly inspected frequently, and there is a very specific checklist of things the hotel restaurants must do offer in order to keep their rating. We always had to be suspicious of any single diners because they could possibly be inspectors. So you could be a regular Joe Schmo, but if you are dining alone you are going to get the 5-star treatment. Once we had a particular woman staying at the hotel and somehow management figured out and confirmed she was an inspector. They literally took security cam stills and printed them out to give to all employees so we would know who she was. I still remember her name was Katrina. Something else interesting. One of the 5-star restaurants I worked at in a 5-star hotel would frequently be closed for private events. There was usually a contract written beforehand stating the group must spend a minimum amount of money. We got automatic gratuity on whatever that minimum was, but the goal was to go over so we would make more money. The people at the events usually didn't know these details. They weren't the ones paying. And towards the end of the night, if they hadn't reached the minimum, we would have to start pouring the most expensive wine and liquors to meet the goal. Who wants a few rounds of Macallan 25 doubles etc. And people still tipped cash on the open bar, so it was easy to walk away with $500 a night in tips after those parties. It was the easiest money I ever made. ETA, Macallan. Ha. Please forgive me, I am a lowly tequila drinker. If I ever go to one of those hotels, I'll act suspicious then. Thanks for the tip. Corporate intern events where the kids would get plied with alcohol. Infuriating. We had one company annually bring 80 interns as part of a site visit tour, and it was a nightmare. I was sure someone would die every year. One year there were 3 hospitalizations though, and one of the boys sent the hospital bill to the hotel. To be clear, the entire F&B team knew about the event and were very vigilant about refusing service. We were not involved or liable in his medical issue. The audacity, particularly because he and all of his intern colleagues trashed everything. We had to prepare the lobby by removing sculptures and porcelain plant pots. One year we started always removing a kind of sharp cornered bookcase because too many drunk interns had hurt themselves on it. There were bodily fluids everywhere and linens destroyed beyond continued use. Plumbing broke daily. There was always smoking damage in some rooms. But all the adults were useless, of course. And all adults were culpable in providing alcohol to the underage people. The company accepted the bill for the damage every year and always came back. And we would add literally everything we could. We would tack weeks worth of room nights onto their bill because we had to keep dozens of rooms out of service while damage was repaired. The company paid for everything we camped for complaining guests too. They also paid for anything we had to replace. And they were so used to the damage fees we would just throw things in there sometimes. Like a treadmill finally broke during their residence. But did one of their guests break it? Don't know. Didn't care. They bought us a new treadmill. We were one of 3 hotels on this annual tour. I worked at a Ritz Carlton a few years back. It's literally the same as anywhere else. The hotel staff is amazing at their job, but on their personal time they're just as fricked as everyone else. The kitchen staff had a few folks with drug issues and had to be sent home a couple times because of it. In my time there I saw 2 waiters get fired due to embezzlement. The turnover rate for management was very high because they didn't pay enough for the area. The staff parties were wild to say the least. We weren't allowed to greet celebrities by name since they wanted to be anonymous, so we would use their alias that day. Some were greeted by prostitutes or escorts who were always super nice to everyone. A regular would rent out a room for a day, once a month, and make 30-40k that day from clients, celebrities, business guys, you name it. Crazy. I worked at one of the premier hotels at a ski resort in the country. Top 10. Met celebrities, royalty, politicians, athletes. Hockey players are the nicest athletes by a wide margin. Royalty is great or more likely awful. A list celebrities want to be left alone or treated as just another person. Politicians are bigger buttholes when they're with their families. Saw lots of sex, drugs, underage drinking, escorts. The usual. I was most amazed by how nice staff were to guests when management continually made our lives harder and shittier. We'd just let it roll off our backs and keep smiling until we just quit. We were paid so little and respected so little by management. If you weren't thick-skinned then you quit by week's end. Best thing I saw was the hotel dog. Think alpine dog that people can pet. Kids can get woken up by him in the morning. Plays on the ski slopes, etc. Well, he escaped his pen, made straight for the high-end restaurant and went hog wild. Jumped on a few tables and scarfed $100 steaks like they were M&Ms. Me and another guy saw it. We worked during the ski day and cleaned up into the evening, so it was just him and I finishing up in our department at the time, which was by the dog's kennel. We both saw he was going to escape and we could have stopped it, but we just wanted to watch the world burn. Greatest day of work there by far. Best story on this thread doesn't involve jizz, poop, murder or suicide. My so worked for a fancy hotel. The building owners, not the chain, the actual building itself, came to visit. He was on the Forbes billionaire list. He was a nice man who had buffet lunches every day and tipped every staff members he saw a crisp $100 every time he saw them. Housekeeper walking past $100. Bartender setting up $100. Shift swap $100 on the way in and out. This is how you billionaire. Never ever ever, I repeat, use a chocolate fountain from a hotel or banquet hall. But picture this, it's an expensive butt Sunday brunch. Well, little Timmy just double-fisted strawberries directly into that chocolate. Bit into both strawberries, then triple dipped into the chocolate again. And some old rich lady just sneezed on it. And somebody else just dropped their snack into it. The best part, that chocolate gets strained and saved for the next week's brunch. Chocolate is way too expensive to throw away. Chocolate also does this thing where it'll seize if it has the wrong moisture content. From people dipping fruit, and the juice is going into the chocolate, so it'll get so thick it won't run through the machine. Wanna know how they fix that? They add canola oil until it's smooth again. So, yeah, next time you're at a wedding and they have a chocolate fountain, think of this post. Think of this post when you dip into that dirty but watered down with oil chocolate. I think the oil is needed in general to make a chocolate fountain run smoothly, but rest of that is gross lol. Worked at a high-end restaurant at a ski resort that hosts a famous film festival. Lots of sex in the walk-in coolers, but never the people you'd want to walk in on. I never caught anyone in the walk-ins, but I always thought the dry storage upstairs would have been a good spot. Now I'm curious who the heck was having sex in the walk-ins. Worked in 5-star hotels in Beverly Hills. Boy, do I have stories. Shake picks up a H in the bar, takes her to his room. She roofies him and steals tens of thousands of dollars of cash, watches and valuables. Husbands who will say hello to staff with their mistress on their arm on Thursday night and their wife on Friday night. Famous teen celebrity left a room full of needles and various drug paraphernalia behind for housekeeping to clean up. Middle Eastern royalty ships in multiple Ferraris and Lamborghinis to the hotel from their home country to drive for the week. Caught drag racing later that night by the cops in the neighborhoods of Beverly Hills. Largest checkout bill I've ever seen was roughly $2 million for guest who rented out an entire floor of suites for 3 weeks. Promptly paid via wire transfer. Had to procure $100 cash for a guest whose wife wanted to shop on Rodeo Drive the next morning. The local bank doesn't even have that much. Had to get an armored car from the Central LA Bank branch to deliver. The list goes on. Didn't work at one, but delivered newspapers to one. The prostitution thing was something the desk saw a lot. The best one was when the gentleman got robbed by two young ladies and immediately demanded the front desk call the cops. When the desk asked if he wanted to call the cops and tell them he hired 2H, illegal, he suddenly just grunted and marched up to his room. Never trust glass in rooms. Glass are so stretched thin on time that they will clean the glasses with the same rags they clean the bathroom. After all, their goal is to make the room look clean. I worked as a gra in a 5 Diamond for years, and there was over a year period that went by where we didn't get a clean glass delivery. We didn't have dishwashers in the room, so management was complicit. This was in a 5 Diamond, one of the top resorts in the world. Never trust glass in hotel rooms. Suddenly the sealed plastic cups at Holiday Inn seem 5-star to me. Dead people. In some places there's a reasonable chance somebody has died in your bed. Obviously it varies with the type of hotel and its clientele, but some places you get deaths weekly. Not that the hotel isn't safe, but unfit old people overexerting themselves. One place I worked, maybe 40% of the beds had been died in. Bedbugs. They happen in every hotel. You might be paying $5 a night, but your luggage was in the hold with everyone else's. If there's only 1 or 2 bugs and none in the adjacent rooms diamond style, so above, below, and both sides, then you brought them in. You know what I never saw happen? Maid stealing. Everyone always points at the maids when they lose stuff, but we always found it. No way the maids are risking their jobs over your used iPad or mall jewelry. With tips they make pretty decent money. Tip about bed bugs. When you arrive, never put your luggage on the bed. When you arrive, keep lights off. Put luggage in bathroom, and then at the head of the mattress peel back the sheets and mattress pad. Bed bugs tend to congregate there, but scatter when there is light. If you find bed bugs, you can request another room. What goes on the room next to you? This week we to Eviction have arrested a couple for causing over $15,000 in damages to a room. This was done quietly late at night and the nearby rooms never found out. We don't bat an eye at prostitution or whatever goes on in the rooms as long as it doesn't affect other guests. Half the women that come to the bar are working girls looking for a sale. The only thing that the hotel industry ever really reports is human trafficking. There are telltale signs, and if something doesn't add up we do report it to local authorities. I don't know about all 5 hotels, but I'm sure this happens at most of them. Front desk reservation staff will basically stalk you online if you're a notable VIP, and your picture will be shared internally to ensure everyone recognizes you, so you feel special when you arrive and everyone already knows who you are. The scale. Management wants things to be automatic for you. A person there when you need them and every item you could need before you need it, but the scale of that is purposefully hidden. For example, you see your housekeeper. You might see that there are 5 other housekeepers on that floor, a houseman per floor and a special request delivery person. If you look closely, you don't see the 4-6 desk workers manning the radios so that we know when to enter certain rooms, who wants special pillows, how we manage the 3 rooms that all want service at 1 PM or replacing rooms that asked for no service. You don't see the 6 supervisors spot checking checkout rooms for cleanliness. Nor do you see the laundry teams, plural. Sheet and guest laundry are separate, and guest is split into dry cleaning and non-dry clean. You might see the public parlor attendants, but you probably won't see the team cleaning the pool or deep cleaning the gym sauna. At 7:30 AM every morning, the service area just explodes with activity, like you kick 2 ant nests at once. 60 housekeepers on a single shift? Guess it's a slow day, and that's just housekeeping. We have 3 industrial scale kitchens for various purposes. 4 if you count pastries, security teams, contact companies for large events, teams of engineers in every specialty. I don't even know where the IT office is, but we do have one. I'm one of the more knowledgeable on where to find items for special requests, and I still find new storage rooms every other week. We found a 1930s printing press nobody knew we had. It's freaking wild how many moving parts there are. Flipping 500 rooms in a day while setting up for $2 1 million weddings simultaneously. Fulfilling 100 room service orders while catering those weddings while running our restaurant. Fixing a leaky shower head in the pool while ensuring a guest had an extra couch in their room for the kid that just loves couch beds. All of this together is called an average Tuesday in summer. I was a valet in college at a very swanky resort. The members had a certain sticker on their car and the owner's partners have a black sticker, which I had no clue, but knew they belonged. When a guy pulled up in a very nice Benz I said, "Welcome back," not knowing his name. He was so pee that I didn't know who he was. He was an butt to me but I couldn't care less. Moments later another younger guy pulled up to valet and asked me what the guy said to me. I hesitantly said he was mad I had no idea who he was. The young guy looked disappointed and said that's my father and he is in a $sign hole. Don't worry about him at all. Then he gave me $20 to park his car and was extremely nice to every employee who ever interacted with him. I never was but had friends who did valet in college and this sounds very familiar. I worked in a major Vegas hotel as the senior hotel manager. I've seen it all. A few things you wouldn't know. Every hotel has bed bugs at some point. It's not the hotel's fault. We noticed international travelers tend to bring them. Probably because they're staying at multiple hotels per trip. You can even get them from the airplane. To check for bed bugs, just inspect each layer of the sheets, under the pillows and mattress. They look like tiny roaches. If you see blood spots on the sheets the next morning, that's usually a sign you have been bitten. But the bites can sometimes take a few days to show or get noticed. Checking in late at night sometimes means free upgrades or discounted upgrade rates. We would try to sell every last suite at night for almost 80% off. We just wanted something, so they don't go unoccupied. Sometime if we were oversold on rooms, the late arrivals, midnight, would get a free suite upgrade because we had no choice. Of course this could also backfire if the hotel is sold out. You may get downgraded for being a late arrival. When you complain, the nicest, more understanding guest gets the better compensation. The rude guest gets bare minimum. Always treat the staff with respect and be friendly. You'd be surprised the number of people who are rude, even for the smallest of issues. I used to work events at hotels and one time we had a guest break their wine glass inside a water refill barrel. I left work for 2 weeks to go on vacation and when I came back, all the glass was still piled inside the water refill barrel. People must have been drinking out of it because there were events booked while I was gone. We don't want you to know that the people who stayed in the room before you were freaking nasty. Housekeeping gets the brunt of it. I've seen them carry out bags of used sex toys, peel used condoms off of every surface, and scrub crap, actual human, presumably, crap, off places there's no reason for human crap to be. The worst, though, was the couple that wanted a home birth but not, you know, at home, because gross. We had to deal with that hazmat situation. Fricked them as hard as we could with penalties and fees, though. The worst, though, was the couple that wanted a home birth but not, you know, at home. Holy heck, the absolute audacity. At a certain Beverly Hills hotel, where I valeted for a short amount of time, many stars' cars are just left there. They come and get them whenever. There was also a code name for Justin Bieber who visited often. I can't remember it. He picked it himself. His G-Wagon and a Bentley were just kept down there free of charge. Usher also left his bike there a few years back and has just never collected it. Mayo, I don't know why I find it so funny that Usher just left a bike. I wrote travel guides to places in the Middle East, Dubai, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, etc. and have stayed in lots of 5-star hotels around the world for work. The whole 5-star system is murky from the start. The manager at a top-class London hotel told me that the hotel grading system in general is utter nonsense. The problem, he said, is that the list of criteria to reach each of the star ratings is little more than a tick sheet, albeit with around 500 factors to consider. For example, one criterion for being considered 5-star is fresh flowers being present in guest rooms. But there's a huge difference between a big ornate display of orchids and a bunch of daffodils. The presence of either would technically tick the box, and in theory you could fulfill all the required 5-star criteria yet be hugely inferior to the hotel next door that offers all the same things but at a much higher quality and standard. The Forbes travel guide gave just 6 London hotels a 5-star rating, including the one my insider works at, but that means that fantastic hotels like the Ritz, the Langham, the Berkeley, and Mandarin Oriental Hyde Park are only 4-star. Are they really 20% inferior to the 5-star rated Albuston Ratana in Garhoud in Dubai, which is basically a business hotel near the airport? It's also difficult to maintain a consistent roll call of criteria, as modern demands change. For example, Wi-Fi in the room is a relatively recent expectation, and what we expect as standard has changed over the years, so what constitutes luxury now has altered accordingly. When Savoy Hotel in London opened 1889, it was boasting about features such as electric lifts, speaking tubes to link each floor, and fully plumbed bathrooms. Now though, in the era of internet, crowdsourcing is often the most reliable way to judge somewhere. When hundreds of people on sites like TripAdvisor say a place is overpriced and terrible, then it doesn't matter what the official book says. And if a 1-star hotel gets nothing but praise from 90% of the people commenting, there's your consensus of rating right there. Very interesting. Used to work in one 2 summers ago in a remote-ish place where we lived in accommodations across the street from the hotel. A lot of us have slept with each other, and the busiest days are weekends, so we usually have Mondays off. Sundays were called Sunday Funday, where we would go to town or other people's dorms, and do way too much coke. Lots of prostitution and all the drama, legal trouble that goes along with it. Corporate functions like conventions, parties, etc., where there's an open bar almost always leads to something fricked up happening. One hotel I worked at hosted a Christmas party for an investment firm, and 2 guys started jockeying for the affections of a female coworker. They all wound up on an elevator together and the guys started fighting. The elevator went into safety lockdown. We had to call the PD and the FD. One guy went in a squad car. One guy went in an ambulance. We had to give the woman some clothes from Lost and Found because her dress was covered in blood and the elevator was out of service for 6 hours to clean it up. There's always a ton of back of house drama, too, especially among the execs and the junior managers. Affairs, backstabbing, a little light fraud, you know, the usual. Yeah, I'd like 2 packs of light fraud please. I worked in security for one, and housekeeping called us all the time for drugs they'd find in a room. The first thing we'd ask for is the room number, and we'd look up the name of the guest. If it was a VIP or someone important to us, we'd tell them to leave it there and we'd take care of it. If the guest was someone we didn't know and not important to us, we'd go up there and take it out of the room, then threaten to evict them from their stay if they did it again. The clues hints we would use: what's their status tag? Diamond members almost always got a pass. How did they book the room? If it was a third party like Expedia, no pass. How many times had they stayed at our specific property? 5 or more, pass. How much had they charged up? If they were spending money on property outside of the room rate, pass. Basically you could have seen your room if you spent enough money. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.